Well, President Obama had something to say about the nation's future today. Speaking out at Hudson Valley Community College in Troy, New York, the president said future prosperity depends on redirecting higher education to focus more on technology and innovation for new industries.
Since the peak of the space race in the 1960s, our national commitment to research and development has steadily fallen as a share of our national income. And that's why I set a goal of putting a full 3% of our gross domestic product, our national income, into research and development, surpassing the commitment we made when President Kennedy challenged this nation to send a man to the moon.
For more on the president's plan to keep America competitive through innovation, let's bring in White House economic advisor Jared Bernstein. He joins us from the White House lawn. Jared, great to have you back with us. You know, this is a week that will largely be focused on international issues. You've got the UN General Assembly meeting. You've also got the G20 meeting starting later on this week in Pittsburgh. Why do you think, though, the president, or why did the president choose now to talk about this issue?
Well, the president always has the domestic economy in the forefront of his thinking, especially now that we have so many of our interventions in the economy helping to pull us back from the brink of depression. Really, what the president's talking about today is so important in terms of building a foundation so that the expansion that we believe is out there is one that is strong, robust, and reaches all people, not just a bubbly, frothy kind of growth that just reaches those at the top with a kind of an insecure base. When you talk about the kind of investments he's talking about today in smart people, smart capital, the kind of tax incentives for businesses, that's what's going to build a strong foundation moving forward.
That sounds like the New Deal here, but what about the old picture of an export-led economy? You know, Laura Tyson was saying she thinks that an export-led economy is going to have to help us towards recovery, but Paul Krugman says there's nowhere really to export to nowadays.
Well, I think if you may be talking kind of about short-term versus medium or longer term. Yes, there are lots of economies throughout the globe facing difficult economic times right now, but that's changing as we speak. We've seen some European economies pull ahead. We've seen some Asian economies start to show some real strong signs of life. One of the things the president talked about today is through an innovative and 21st century American manufacturing sector that's going to help boost our exports. And by the way, it's an interesting little point of history. When you've had a recession with a financial crisis overlay, one of the traditional ways out of it is through accelerated exports. So that may be a very helpful path moving forward.
All right, but, you know, as Matt mentioned, Jared, you know, Krugman is saying that despite the uptick, he questions export-led recovery, saying we probably need to find another planet to export to. He makes a good point. I mean, who's going to be buying it?
I think Paul has a point in the following sense. You're not going to export your way solely out of this recession. Consumers are, of course, going to have to come back online. And that brings you right back to the job market. Now, the Recovery Act continues to spend out. At this point, we've obligated, if you include the tax cuts, something like 40% of the Recovery Act. That means there's a lot more to come. That's going to help boost consumer spending. If you listen to the president today, you're talking about the investment side of GDP. So that's part of the story, too. There's no one sector that's going to get you out of this by itself. But together, consumption, investment, government, and exports, I think that's what we're looking for.
Hey, one sector we really need to help us get out of this is the housing sector, Jared. And I'm just curious, you know, people are still expecting rising foreclosures, still lots of concerns about housing. What about that first-time home buyers tax credit? Might the administration consider extending it?
Look, there are a number of policies under discussion in terms of extension. One thing you can say, though, is that the first-time home buyers credit has played a critical role in stabilizing aspects of the housing market, whether you're talking about prices, existing home sales, new home sales, in the case of the first home buyers credit. All of those series have stabilized and are showing some signs of life.
So will
you're right about the foreclosures, though, so you're right about the foreclosures, though, so we're not out of those woods either.
You know, Thomas Lawler, an economist, says that if we take it away, we could risk a relapse in the drop in the housing market. I mean, are you concerned enough about that to extend that credit?
We're certainly concerned about any potential for relapse, so that's going to have to be an argument we're going to look at carefully.
All right, Jared, thanks so much for joining us. Jared Bernstein there, White House economic advisor.